I appreciate you being here. Thank you. And I see Commissioner Keon is also joining us. How are
I'm
you,
all,
Commissioner?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. As I said, probably like everybody else, there's things to complain about, but we're alive and healthy. Thank you, everybody, for coming. As you know, my name's Sam Joseph. I'm the Vice Chair of the City of Coral Gables School Community and Relations Committee. And I'm honored to have you guys here today as part of our Special Needs Initiative Planning Group, which we started actually over 2.5 years ago to really look at, actually kind of continue the work the city has been doing around inclusiveness and how do we address all audiences and make sure that our services are helping and approaching all audiences that live in our city. So I thank you for coming out. I did want to go real quickly and have everybody just go through and say hello, reintroduce yourself. Some of you are new to this meeting. Some of you are the founding members. And just if you would, who you are, who you're with, would be great. And then we'll talk a little bit about the agenda in a second. Let's start with Commissioner Keon.
Hi, good afternoon to all of you. I obviously I'm one of your Coral Gables commissioners. I worked with Craig Lean many years ago now on developing the principles of inclusion and which were adopted and which we really do try and live by in the city. We also, when Kathy Swanson was manager, I said to her, if we really are going to make this work for our children, we need to have somebody at the youth center. We really want to provide this opportunity, particularly for children to be able to play and to socialize. We need to ensure that our parks, that we have parks that are accessible, and that we have that children can take advantage, disabled children or children on the autism spectrum can take advantage of the programs that we have at the youth center. And so we hired Erica, who is at the youth center and coordinates these activities for all of us. She is just outstanding. We are blessed to have her. She works so well with these children and families, and some of the special needs that we're seeing they're not just children that are disabled, but they're children that are very brittle diabetics that may want to, that she follows, and she makes sure that the counselors understand and know, what the symptoms of, if their sugar is too high or too low, and what to do and everything else. So it all is a very, it's a, it works well for all of us here. So I'm grateful to all of you for your work on this.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Next, Naomi Levi Garcia, who is our savior on the SCRC and city attorney. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Sam, for the kind words. My name is Naomi Levi Garcia. I serve as a staff liaison to the School Community Relations Committee. I'm also the Intergovernmental Affairs Manager and an Assistant City Attorney for the City of Coral Gables. I'm happy to be with you all. I'm looking forward to getting to know you guys better and the mission of the working group.
Thank you so much. Some of you might know that Stephanie Throckmorton, because we've always had participation from the attorney's office since Craig Lean, as Commissioner mentioned, who was another founding member of this group. And so it's great to have Naomi here representing the office, but also a friendly face from SCRC. Let's go with Carolina Vester.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Carolina Vester. I represent the Community Recreation Department. I'm the Assistant Director there, and I come on demand whenever we need to do some updates on all the amazing things that we're doing for inclusion, whether it's programming, events, or even a park. So I'll be here to give you guys an update on what we're doing.
And those of you who've been with this group for a while know that the department that's really carried the weight of the city's commitment has been the Parks and Recreation Department. They really have gone above and beyond, and Erica is a saint. Love her to death since the day we met her, and I know all of our families do also. Francis, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Sam. It's nice to be here, see everybody. As I mentioned earlier, I'm here on behalf of School Board Member Maritere Rojas, which some of you may know that she's a true champion for all, not just kids, but everybody in District 6, which of course includes City Beautiful. So she wasn't able to join today, but I'm here because, you know, we're always collaborating, helping in whatever we can. And she's a true believer in teamwork. So I'm here for whatever you may need.
Thank you so much, Francis. We couldn't do it without the school system. The school system, again, is a huge provider of services for special needs, not just for the city of Coral Gables, but for our entire community. And Maritere Rojas, I don't need to tell you about her advocacy. You see and hear from her all the time. And the fact that Francis is here meeting with us tells you everything you need to know about her and her commitment to us and serving her community. Raquel Regalado, say hello.
Hey folks, how are you? I'm not sure why you can't see me, but it's great to see you all again. Jennifer, how you all doing? Sam, if you hear Bella and Sebastian in the back, I gotta. It says, here we go. Now you can see me. Now I think I can. There
you go.
Here we go. Yay! Now you can see me. Great to see you guys. And thank you for the invitation, Sam. I really wanted to jump on. I know everybody's been doing some great work. I've been keeping up with Craig too. We miss him dearly. And I know Commissioner Keon has also been doing great work. But, you know, for those of us who now have teenagers that are going into adulthood, you know, we're really concerned. And the pandemic has been really hard. And Jennifer's right. You know, we can communicate through Zoom and there's lots that we can do. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that, you know, we've actually seen our kids get divided into two groups, you know, some that can really comply with these norms. Like my daughter wears her mask around the house. I got to remind her to take it off because she wants to be safe. So there's this misconception that children with disabilities wouldn't be able to follow the norms. And actually we've seen that the ones in the spectrums are very good at it. But then for the other ones that cannot, you know, we got to talk about other accommodations and about explaining other options to parents so that we can keep everybody safe. But obviously it's been a very long time and folks are concerned about programming and our kids miss each other. I know everybody misses each other, but our kids really miss each other. So anyway, thank you. It's always wonderful to see all you guys.
Great to have you here. Prior to Maritere Rojas, you all know that Raquel served our district well. Again, another huge champion. She's one of the founding members of this group also, along with Craig Lean. And I kept her on the list, and I know Raquel, she's always going to show up whenever she can. Thank you for what you do. Dr. Jennifer DeRocher from our friends from CARD.
Hi, it's wonderful to be here. So I'm the director of, it's a very long name, University of Miami, Nova Southeastern University, SU, Center for Autism and Related Disabilities, CARD. And so those of you, probably everybody here knows what CARD is, but if not, briefly, we're one of 7 regional centers in the state that are funded directly through the Department of Education, Florida Department of Education. We're a discretionary project. And our task is really to optimize the potential of people with autism and related disabilities by increasing the capacity of the community to serve them. And so we are a free resource for families. Right now, our CARD Center has over 13,000 families registered with us. And we work not only with the families and the individuals within the spectrum themselves, but we also work with the broader community. And any place somebody with autism is educated or recreates or interfaces, we're there to help provide support. So that's us in a nutshell.
Fabulous. I've been a fan of CARD since the day I met them back in the 90s. And Marlene Schulfand, I'll never forget, who I know
My
is
God,
married.
Marlene, yes.
But they're all over the state, and I always, in every capacity that I can, mention them because their resources are invaluable for special needs families. And once you learn about them, as Raquel said, these families, we miss each other. And once you learn about a resource, you make sure everybody in the community knows about it, and especially if they're as good as CARD. Vanessa, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa Liebel, and I currently chair the Coral Gables Advisory Board on Disability Affairs. Really excited to get to know everybody. This is my first meeting. I think you guys are familiar with Blake Sando. And so I'm happy to be here. He spoke wonderful things about you guys, so I'm very interested in learning more. So thank you.
Thank you for coming. It's great to have you. And we've had a great relationship with DAB. Sometimes I'll use the acronym. And with Blake Sando, Marie Palacio Pike. It's really been a great relationship back and forth, so that we don't step on each other's toes, but hopefully can help each other get to the goals, shared goals that we have. By the way, I like to mention, officially, the Disability Affairs Board is the official city board in terms of dealing with special needs issues. Say what more you need to, Vanessa, but I like to let people know that we're a planning group and we offer suggestions to them and to the commission, but they do the real work.
Thank you. I will say this, the board is made up of amazing individuals, and they have led the board really well so far. And so there are a lot of initiatives that we are currently putting in place. If you like, I can give you an update.
That would be great.
Okay. Yes, so we have a couple of things. Every year for 3 years, I think we've done the Adventure Day for All. This year it was canceled, unfortunately, because of COVID. But we have replaced it with the Magical Adventure, Magical Event Day, I think is what it's called, a Park Day. Carolina, if you want to jump in and help me out with this one, you're more than welcome to.
The magical park.
Yes, the Magical Park. Sorry, and so that's going to be going on all the month of October through the evening hours for people with disabilities. So if they can't deal with the heat, then there's those accommodations. It is outside, so if there are people that have limited mobility, then with, I guess, informing the city beforehand, we do have the ability to move it to the basketball court, so it can be used there as well. Another big thing that we have in the works that I'm very excited to share is our voluntary registry. We haven't named it yet, but this is going to be a registry for individuals that that may wander off. So it will be something that we're working with the police department, and it'll be something, I believe it's going to be a series of questions that will be answered, that if somebody does wander off, they could very easily ask this to the person and give them a little bit more comfort and have a solution, as opposed to maybe Baker acting at them, which is what they've been doing in the past. So some more, we are now, we're going to have a seat, an ex officio seat to the Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce. And our hope with that is to really shine a spotlight on the abilities that people in the spectrum or with other disabilities have. I think there's a disconnect with what people understand, what they're able to do and what they're not able to do. And so I think really by being able to work with the chamber and kind of share with them what it is that we're doing and what it is that our populations can and can't do, I think that would make it easier, at least an opening to employment. That's what our hopes are for that. And let's see what else we have going on. We are creating a video of the board's accomplishments. So that's something that we hope to share on social media, so that we can really let people know that we're not fully there. We haven't reached everything we want to as far as accomplishing everything, but we are willing and wanting to work with the citizens of Coral Gables to make it a city that's accepted for all and that's accessible for all. So that's pretty much sums it up. I'm sorry, you're muted, Sam. Sam, you're muted right now.
It's a thing I always say I'm not going to do because I see people do it. I do it all the time. Vanessa, maybe you can chime in about this, and Carolina, if you know, the Center for Independent Living, the SIL, is it still in operation? How much or how little work are we doing? Is the city doing with them? And I guess their function as being a resource for families, is that being done out of the Adult Activity Center? Just question.
So they still have their office at the youth center. The building, while we've been operational for certain programming, has been closed to the public. So I believe that they've been operating either out of their other office or virtually. I don't have an update on their behalf, but we're still collaborating on things, and they still have a home at the youth center. Just with COVID times, they haven't been using that building or the adult center. They did do meetings at the adult center too, so we've facilitated both buildings to them to use.
Excellent. I assume when we go back to more normal operations, we'll start seeing them back, because they are a useful resource also, and I know that's part of what started this group, was looking at a way to have to grow that relationship and really point our residents, all residents, to one place where they can go to find the answers to the questions that they have about, if I need adaptation, if I need to be included, who do I see? And having that housed in our city, we're very proud of it. So let us know what we can do to help at SCRC. Next is the Salvador Park Playground Project, which is it's such a cool project. If you want to share some stuff, you guys did a really neat job. Carolina, it's yours.
Sure. If you allow me to share the screen.
You got
and
it.
Before, since Vanessa mentioned it, I'll share quickly the information on the Magical Park. And whenever you're ready.
Did I optimize? Let me get Carolina. Let me find you. Make co-host. Okay, that should do it.
All right. Let me see. So since Vanessa mentioned it, I think it's really, really important to share with us. We went and had a beautiful event to kind of unveil this park. This is a park that you don't see. It is the very first to launch in the U.S. We worked with a company from New Zealand, and it's similar in ideas, kind of, if you're familiar with Pokemon Go, that was a big trend like 2 years ago. It's about bringing technology out to the parks and exercising and using the parks. And what better time than COVID times, when the only thing that was open was parks and yet our playgrounds were closed. So we were dealing, just aside, not just our inclusion community, but everybody was suffering because they had no playgrounds to go to because of the fear of contamination, touch points. So what better way to kind of incorporate play back than something that you don't touch or see, and the only thing you need is your own personal device, whether it's a tablet or a phone. So we worked for almost 2 months, and that was really spearheaded by Erica. We gave her a task, look for something that can be done, and she researched the entire globe, brought us different projects, and then we found this group here in New Zealand. So here's the information. They did give us a very unique game to play during this Halloween time. So if you want to go out there, if you want to share the information, we have a Halloween themed game. Again, the only thing they need is the smart devices. It's at the Youth Center Athletic Field, which is now open, Monday through Sundays. That can be used. It's for family use, so it's not for organized, groups. For the unveiling, we did invite Crystal Academy there, so we had a formalized group there to kind of introduce the game. And besides the game, Erica actually also worked with the company to make inclusion a priority. So to adapt the game to whether you're blind, adapt the game to any disabilities, make it a little slower, reduce some of the sensations, the lighting. So she's adapted the game to bring it to our inclusion group as well. So it's been really, really successful, and I think it really meets the current need in the pandemic that we've been dealing with. So I think it's important to share this before we talk about an actual physical playground, that this has been an amazing thing. And all these other communities, they're reaching out to us now saying, put us in touch with this company. We want to try this out. Can we bring this to our city? And it's all over Florida. The people have been reaching out to us to bring this to their local city. So it's a great initiative.
I love it. No, that's perfect.
Can I ask a question? Oh, sorry, Sam.
Go right ahead.
So I assume then this is accessible to anybody. They don't have to be a Coral Gables resident.
Anybody. So it's basically the app is free. So you can either go to the City Hub and download it from the City Hub, or you can actually go straight to Google Play or App Store, and it's called the Magical Park, and you can download it for free. There's no charges for the game. The city's paying for it, and it's going to be, it's a geozone game. So basically, it's a safe space within the field. So the kids can't wander off. It's a fenced-in location, both physically fenced in and technology geo-fenced in. So it doesn't allow kids to wander off to the street or anything, which is, you know, really, really important for the community with disabilities, you know, that it's a safe space.
For sure. Is it possible to get a copy of this PDF flyer? We would love to include it in our newsletter that we send out to the community.
Absolutely. We can actually, I'll send both the press release with the flyer to Sam, and then Sam, you can distribute.
You got it. I am here
Thank
to
you so
serve.
much.
Like the USPS, I'm here to serve. Any other questions? No, this was fantastic. And look, this is also future, you know, programming. Let's be honest. We've learned that the virtual programming and virtual world is not as scary as we thought. And there are some creative things that we can do to include more audiences that we haven't been including.
Definitely. We've been thinking about doing something like this for almost a year, but until you're forced and there's a demand for it, that's when you really start diving into, you know, these kind of things that normally everybody's kind of afraid of touching. So this has been a unique opportunity. We're excited to launch it. It'll be there through the month of December. And at that time, the city will decide whether we want to, you know, this is basically a pilot. If we renew the contract, if we try it out at a different park. So we'll look and see if we're going to expand this depending on the demand for the magical park.
Excellent.
All right. So going to Salvador, and I'll give you guys an abbreviated presentation. Can you guys see, or did it switch screens or no?
No.
Okay, let me go back.
Yeah.
1 second. I'll stop sharing, I'll share again.
There you go.
And here we go. You guys able to see that?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So I'll give you guys kind of like the cliff notes. We've kind of reinvented how we do public meetings, again, because of COVID times. We've put a lot of our projects on hold for almost 3 months when we decided, you know, we have to keep these going because especially this one is tied to a grant and there can't be any delays. So we decided to reinvent our public meeting process. So we now do a 30-day viewing period for our residents where we put this in every medium, whether it's the print paper, the website, social media, on the Coral Gables television, on e-news. We've put it everywhere. Give me 1 second. 1 second, Ellie. Mommy's doing a presentation, okay? Yes, Daddy will open it. Okay. Daddy, please. Sorry, guys.
The new normal.
The new normal. And I have the house full today.
That's right. That's right. Adaptation to the new normal.
So we also did door hangers to inform the immediate community within 1,500 feet. And then we did a virtual meeting via Zoom. So the original meeting was back in 2018 where we kind of proposed the idea of going after this grant with, you know, the community equally divided. We had a big portion of the community very excited to go after this grant. And unfortunately, another part of the community who said, you know, not in my backyard, not those kids, put them somewhere else. And, you know, and that's a hard thing to digest. We're here as a city trying to, you know, provide an amazing amenity and a much needed amenity to our city. And fortunately for us, we got the green light to pursue. We received the funding from the grant program, and the grant program is the FERDAP, so it's the Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program, in the amount of $175,000, and it's a matching grant. And as we explored the park and the project, also we reviewed back our past ADA audits to see what's not compliant. The project obviously grew financially, so we have adapted, and you know, it's a much bigger project now, and we're excited to pursue it. So the actual location is at Salvador Park. This is the green space that normally is underutilized, where we have a nice tree canopy. Because of the tree canopy, the grass doesn't grow very well. You know, we resod it twice a year, and it turns into dust or dirt. So it's very much underutilized and something that the community had wanted to expand on. So what better location with already bathrooms tied to this facility, lighting, an existing playground to include an inclusive playground. So here's just a quick view of the existing park and the green space on the other side. And then the idea is we're not actually going to touch the tree canopy. We've built the park around the tree canopy. Now there's one tree that has been assessed that is not in good condition, so they're going to replace it for a gumbo limbo in the exact same space that it is right now. And, you know, again, a lot of the residents were concerned that we would take the tree canopy away, and we're not going to touch it. So here's the overall scope of the park, and I'll zoom in just a second so you guys can see this a little better. But the existing trees are right here, if you can see my cursor. And then we're going to be doing this large track. And one of the big things that we got feedback from the community is, you know, you're taking away our green space. There's this big track, and I'll show you guys pictures of the track later. You know, we're afraid that kids are going to run through the track, you know, to get to the other side of the green space. Can we make the track smaller? Can we increase the green space? So one of the feedbacks that we've taken from the community is actually adapting the design. So we're going to actually shift the track all the way over to the courts to allow for this green space to come over here and provide that green space in a safe space, and then move the tracks over this way. And that way we kind of met a consensus with the community to adapt to their wishes, but still keep the track, which is the biggest element of the park. We're also going to be restoring the restrooms that are there to make sure that they're ADA compliant and just give them a little bit of a facelift. Let me close the door. So here's another aerial view of the playground. And then this is the track. This is a 3D rendering, and it's very, very cool. It allows inclusive play, meaning that it's got this nice harness seat as well as the normal, like, basically rope structure kind of seats to allow for kids to play together. So the idea of this park is not to separate kids with disability and put them somewhere else. It's just allowing them to give them an additional amenity that's, you know, accessible, but allows for inclusive play. So everybody should be able to play side by side together in this park. We also have these beautiful musical instruments, which are fully accessible, so you can go up to them in a wheelchair. It's very good for all the sensory. And one of the feedback that we got from the Disability Advisory Board is looking at maybe doing some Braille. So we're working with the manufacturers to see if we can do Braille on some of the equipment. And then this is kind of like a version of a merry-go-round. While you can't bring the wheelchair in, it allows for transfer. And it's really fun because it's also kind of an inclusion effort where kids have to play together to be able to push it around. So you can get into it, kids have to move it around, so it really brings kids together. And then it's the same component with the seesaw. It's called the wee saw because you have to, you know, seesaw together, and it has the same kind of idea behind it. And the newest thing now in playgrounds is antibacterial hand sanitizing stations. So that's, of course, the new thing that they try to sell you. So that'll be in here as well. And here's just a couple of different angles so you guys can see them. And here's some photographs. So you can see a little bit that harness seat, what it looks like. And it has, you know, they have them in some of the swing bays that look very similar. So one of the big things and requests we've gotten for multiple years, ever since I've been here, was about accessible swing bays. You know, it's so important to kids, both with physical disabilities and sensory, is the idea of swinging. And we don't have any in our city. So this is going to be able to serve both that swing component that's missing, as well as a brand new feature that would be our very first in our city. And this track, I've spoken to several other municipalities, it's super, super exciting. This becomes kind of like a centerpiece amenity, you know, where people come, you know, line up just to be able to ride, like a little bit of a amusement park kind of feel. Hopefully we're not bringing an amusement park to Salvador Park, but it definitely provides that feeling for the kids. And again, here's the Omni spinner. You can see it in photos. And the wee saw, and then the musical instruments. The nice thing about the park too, and this is the big dollar amount figure, is we're going to be using all artificial turf, so it's completely ADA accessible. We found that, you know, even the EWF, which is that wood engineered fiber that is said to be accessible, is really, really difficult to traverse, especially with, you know, motorized wheelchairs. So we've really looked at providing, you know, that full accessibility in the entire park. So we're going to be doing that with the artificial turf. And then the other side that we're going to be replacing, we're going to make sure we're going to expand on that as well, so that the whole park, not just this addition, becomes fully inclusive. So again, it's going to have both the inclusive and sensory play. We've tried to make it adventurous with the track. It's going to accommodate ages 2 to 5 and 5 to 12. We are also, and you guys didn't see them in the design, we're going to have some interactive play mounds. So within the artificial turf, they're able to do little mounds, basically like hills with tunnels. So to allow for some of that imagination and play, for kids to crawl through, kids to tumble down through, in a safe space. We're also going to have a play mount kind of divide the track from the open space to kind of give a buffer to the track so kids don't run through the track. We're going to include some light ballers, which will allow for some, security lighting. Another thing that came out from the Disability Affairs Board, which was really interesting to hear, was that these light bollards could even serve as a kind of like space of safety. And what was explained to us and Vanessa, you can chime in, you were in the meeting, was that they kind of act like a perimeter for kids with disabilities and allow them to know that this is the place, up to this place you can go, any further you can't get out. So it kind of allows them to stay in a safe place. And regardless, the park is obviously fenced in, but it does show them, indicate what the area is of the park that is for them.
Right. Basically, what they were explaining is that it's very easy it's easier for kids on the spectrum to understand when you give them the rules that these are the safe boundaries. If you stay within it, that they do follow those instructions, is what was said. So you're right, Carolina.
And this is, another good example of collaborating with the board. It really, we brought this design to them and they gave us their feedback, with everybody, parents in some way involved. So this is great to have that feedback directly, not just from the community, but from the board as well. And then last, we're going to do some updating. We're going to bring in some new bike racks, new drinking water to make sure that's ADA with a bottle filler as well. And do other improvements to the park, making sure that the sidewalk gets repaired, that the entrances are ADA accessible. So we'll do a couple of things, not just to the inclusive part of the playground, but to the overall playground to comply with all of that.
Excellent, excellent. I should say, that is my park. It's where I brought Emmy from the day that she was born, and to see, and it's always been a very inclusive place, but this will really make it an all-inclusive park, really. And I can't wait. She's too old now to, actually, she still can benefit a little, but I can't wait to go out there and see those folks. And yeah, you better have some staff around that attraction, because I could see a lot of rides happening over and over again. Any questions, comments, concerns?
And just to let you guys know, the overall project is about $800,000, and then the deadline for completion for the grant is April 2021. So it's a very, very tight deadline, especially with all the delays we've had with COVID. So we're going to do our absolute best. And like I said, it was blessed by the community. We made that small alteration, and we're going to hope to proceed.
Excellent. And by the way, I attended the community meetings, and you guys did. You listened to everyone's concerns, both for and against, and did your best to come up with something that I think is really incredible. And just continuing what you guys have always been, which is truly putting your shoulder into the work and doing the hard work that it takes to live up to the words that we put on paper saying we would be inclusive. So thank you. And tell Fred, I'm always thinking about all of you. Mitchell, Fred, all of you. You guys are amazing. Thank you.
So we kept working all behind the scenes. So we've done lots of amazing stuff while we were, having summer camp at the youth center. We had our study hall while schools still weren't in session for the parents who couldn't take their kids anywhere. So we've been very, very busy. Erica continued her Zoom homework club for her kids that she normally caters to, providing them, some kind of a personal interaction, even if it was virtual. So we've been very busy trying to continue what we do every single day. Some in virtually and some in person.
The new normal. Look, this next section, and it's a great segue into the other part of what this group was about, is looking at ways where we can affect the system and making sure that all of the city's services and programming are accessible to families. And thank you so much for making us look good and implementing it so well, and the DAB for looking at those kinds of things. But one of the, I think in our third meeting one of the things we talked about a lot was advocacy, and really having good advocacy for this group and for this initiative, because I will tell you, it's COVID has been a disturbing time in a lot of ways, not just because of all the illness and death, but for me, it's been a very disturbing time in seeing how we react to pandemic and to panic, and what it does to the least of those, and those folks who really need services and really need people, and at those times are not finding that support, not finding that help. And we've been having some disturbing conversations about whether it's rationing off medical care or so look, if you're not seen or heard from, then people don't think about you, and policy doesn't fit you, and you're not included. And I guess for me, what I haven't heard during the same time as we've been having these disturbing conversations is groups out there saying, hey, wait a minute. We're talking about tax-paying citizens. We're talking about very important issues here that mean something to us all. And let's take a step back and do what we've done here, which is get everybody together, get the ideas to solve the problems together, rather than speaking in silos and in vacuums. Vanessa, you're shaking your head. You probably had, doing this work, probably had the same kind of issues that I've had, that I've seen. Talk a little bit about it and what DAB can and can't do. And
I hear you, and I feel everything.
I'm sorry, I just dumped that hugeness at you, but it's been very, and look, I don't have a child with special needs, and that's not what it's about. It really is about, if we are truly inclusive, and these are tax-paying citizens, and we're a member of this democratic society, somebody ought to be saying, wait a minute, let us have a little say in this conversation and how things move forward.
I hear what you're saying, and I feel everything you're saying. The problem has been, and I agree with you 100%, these are the people that need these services and these programs. The difficulty that lies for the city is we're in the pandemic and we can't be around people. And so it's a safety issue of how do we, and that was something that, and we go over this at every meeting. Our meetings have been suspended, and we just recently had our last meeting. So where we've been able to talk, we haven't been able to convene or talk about these things, but I myself, and I know others on the board, have been reaching out to our liaisons independently, trying to find ways and things to do, but I'm shaking my head in agreement because there's nothing. I myself have searched the web endlessly trying to find solutions to these problems, and I can't. I'm really sorry to say that I feel like I'm failing in a sense that I haven't come up with a solution to help people. I hear you. I know that it's a need that everybody needs. We just don't know how to navigate that. And as a city, I can't speak on behalf of the city, right? We only advise the city on things that they should take. And while we would love to advise them on things, we have to also look at the scientific data as well, and what can and can't be done, and what can we present to them. And coming up with, they've come up with amazing things like the magical park. The things that we've come up with are, amending the mask mandates so that people with disabilities don't have to wear it. Those types of things are the things that we can advise the city on. But as far as activities or services or those things, it's not something that the city provides. They don't provide these services, or other companies that do this. And so I don't know that, I think this is a problem that many cities are facing. And unfortunately, I don't have an answer. But if you guys have any ideas, I would be more than happy to present them to the board and talk about these. I myself don't have any ideas. And again, my hands have been tied not being able to talk to the board. We do convene on Wednesday, and I would be more than happy to bring up anything that you guys speak tell me about, but unfortunately I don't have anything that I can say.
Jen, I'm going to ask you because I see you also shaking your head. I love this is why I love these meetings because you're always preaching to the choir, and I'm a preacher's kid. So whenever I see the heads bobbing, I know that the message is making it. And look, Vanessa, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I don't have all the answers either. I'm just frustrated trying to figure out how do we get through this. But let me give you a physical example of what I'm talking about. I'm a member of the School Community Relations Committee, and so I get emails and calls from folks about schools. One of the biggest audiences where I received the most messaging was from special needs families, because the minute we went virtual, they lost all support whatsoever. Some of them never saw their teachers again, never heard from their schools again until we went to in-person learning last week. And you know, they say, Sam, what do you know about this? What can you do about it? And like you, I say the same thing. I just serve on a board that talks to the schools. I can give you the information they've given me, and I can tell you what ideas we've given them, but we don't govern them. So I can't tell you why they went dark on you, and you're alone. But what I can tell you is this, is that we work with 10 different, excuse me, sorry, everyone. What I tell them is we work with, I know 10 different agencies who are part of my planning group, who we work with, who you can call on, who maybe can tell you about alternative services. And that's a help. So to me, one of the solutions is we have to have that resource center that we've talked about wanting to have, that whether it's the SIL, whether it's the Adult Activity Center, but a place where people can call and say, hey, I got nobody to help me with virtual learning, and I need an assistant to help with my child in order for me to do this. Do you know a place I can call? We don't have to provide the service, but let's at least do what we should do for constituents is, here's the information on where you can get it. Dr. DeRocher?
So yeah, I mean, I think you raise really valid points, and I think, anybody who works in the disability community has heard those same refrains since the pandemic started. And the thing that makes it most frustrating and makes it most difficult is that it's not a universal experience. And so, one family's needs or one family's experience or challenge isn't necessarily echoed by every other family. If it was, and the needs were very circumscribed, it would be easy to kind of come up with something, but each family needs something a little bit different. For every family who feels like they struggle interfacing with the school system, other families have felt very supported by the school system. For those who felt, they've lost their private therapies, others have been able to access them. And within the disability community, I think, there's no one agency that really serves all the needs of all the disability community. And so I think the best we can do is really have these kind of group collaboratives where we all know each other and we all know how to help link families up with our partners who can help them solve the problem. So certainly any family who has an autism spectrum disorders, please send them to us. We are a resource center that does exactly what you were describing, Sam. And if they're not on the autism spectrum disorder, they can call us anywhere. And if you don't know where to send them other than to us, send them to us and we'll help figure out where to send them. But you're right. It is a very frustrating time. I think these challenges existed well before COVID. They're just magnified by the COVID situation. And it's really hard because families do feel isolated and they are home with their children. Luckily, we're starting to fix that. We're coming out of isolation, but
Slowly.
we may be back in there again soon.
Very soon.
So, I echo Vanessa's.
I hear you preaching to the choir.
Sam,
Look,
if I may, this is Francis.
Oh,
Sam.
I'm sorry. Yes, Francis. If you give me 1 second, Francis, because I want to hear from a parent. Raquel's a parent
Yeah.
who is doing this. And you can talk to this directly because that's who I'm hearing from. And then I promise you,
Yeah.
Francis, I do. I want you to be able
Yeah.
to
It'll be quick.
go for it,
It'll be quick.
Raquel.
So yeah, thank you. Just to kind of echo what Jen was saying, I think everybody's had a different experience, and it depends on the parent and how willing we were to kind of shift, right? And how much access you had to other parents who had other ideas. You know, Jen, one of the things that I talked to Michael and I talked to so many people about is that we all kind of in the first 100 days, at least my reaction was to go back to basics, right?
Right.
Like I took out my visual calendar, even though, you know, my visual schedule, even though I had teenagers and we hadn't done a visual schedule for like 5 years, but I had to like create a routine and take them on walks every day and start with like little goals, because if not, like we were going to go mad here, right? Trying to figure out like what's next. You know, if you guys think, you know, your friends and your family that are neuronormal have questions about the pandemic, have a seat with a neurodivergent person and listen to 101 questions 101 times about the pandemic and when it's going to end. And then, you know, soon like television was like our biggest enemy because everything that they saw on there, they then had 10 million questions about. And I was like, oh my God, like we're turning it off and we're going to watch PBS. Because it was very difficult, and we've had so many tragedies. And Jen, you know this because so many parents have just felt like they can't take it, you know, and they were accustomed to having like a break, and they just don't have the family, you know, support that they used to have because they had a grandparent that used to help them, or they had school, or they had therapy, and now it was this like 24/7 super intense thing. So it's been very difficult for parents. But I will say this, you know, and I've said it a million times, a lot of the folks that were pushing for the reopening are parents of children with disabilities. You know, those have been the big ones pushing, you know, to reopen because, you know, they just can't take it anymore. And online learning, depending on the child. I have 2 children in the spectrum. Isabella went to summer camp and she's been in school since August. She cannot take online learning, has no interest in Zoom, didn't even like want a Zoom birthday call. Like she was like, happy birthday to me, hang up. You know, will not do it. And my son Sebastian is still online learning. It's been fine. He even's been able to have like an online tutor, you know, so a different child, a different scenario. And like we always tell people, you know, you met one person in the spectrum, you met one person in the spectrum, right? We're all different and we can't, you know, we can't make generalizations. But I mean, the only thing that I would add is there are so many resources, and CARD is a great resource. And one of the best things that CARD can offer is other people. And I always tell people, you know, when you get your diagnosis, you need someone, you know, 5 years ahead of you, 7 years ahead of you, 2 years ahead of you, because we can provide each other with so much guidance. Just because when you're, especially in those early years, it's really important to hear from someone that's kind of been there, done that, and is on to like a new challenge, just to provide some perspective. So they have great parent programs, and I know that the parent programs went virtual. So they've been
Everything
doing
went virtual.
Excellent. Well, and you know
So
that
we now say hi to each other by Zoom, but yes, it's difficult.
that's a great idea, Raquel. And we've been doing a lot more programming, both with youth, obviously with Parks and Rec, but also the Adult Activity Center, where we've been offering workshops, and I know they've gone virtual also. So that's another place to build that resource center. Francis, please speak.
Yes, thank you, Sam. So it actually worked out better because building on both of them speaking. So of course, this is something that has been difficult to navigate for everybody, and acknowledging that, yes, in March, it was a switch from one day to the next. So not only children with special needs, but across the board, we heard kids not tuning in, you know, even face to face on the computer with teachers. It was very difficult. You know, a lot of it has to go through unions, et cetera, et cetera. So that was one of the points that Board Member Rojas was very adamant that had to have that even if it was virtual, face to face, because it is important. They need to have that attention. Now, has it been easy? No. And it's kind of sad to hear, Sam. I don't know what cases or what schools it was that the kids didn't see a teacher until last week. We had not heard of that, because that is not it's not acceptable. But I welcome you always. Our office is always open for your emails, your phone calls. So I welcome that. But it has been difficult. And as Ms. Regalado stated, one of the groups that was the biggest proponent to opening up was parents that had children with special needs. And that's why on one end, the board had tons and tons of communications. I don't need to tell you the long hours of the meetings of people saying, don't open. But it is a balance, because it is recognizing that there are kids, there are students that need to be physically, of course, with precautions, and we're making sure everything is there for their safety. But it is a balance, because not all children are the same. Not everybody learns the same. And one child can excel on the computer while, it's not the same across the board. So yes, we definitely recognize that. And that was one of the biggest things, and it was a hard decision, and they weighed everything. But again, Sam, if there's any case like that, we try to work as much as possible to the extent that she is able to intervene or to help. But yes, definitely, I echo everything that has been stated about that. It was a challenge, and it may continue to be, until we're clear out of this. But I think it's going to continue to be a challenge for everybody.
Definitely. No, and the full disclosure, look, Mighty Teddy's office is beyond responsive. Sometimes they know things before I even get news of it, and let me know about it. No, you guys are extremely responsive. If I don't send you something, it's usually because a parent says, don't send something.
Sure.
And look, at the end of the day, as everybody has mentioned, everybody's experience is different, and schools are individual and different, and each case is different. So this could definitely be an anomaly. But I want to make sure that there is a place where people, one, can send those messages, complaints, comments, needs, requests, and a place that even if they can't get the answers, can say, I don't know it, but let me send you to these folks because they're the best at it. Whether we call that a resource center or an advocacy center, I want to think about that. And then in terms of DAB, one of the things that I've been thinking about and was going to come to your meeting and propose and talk about is some kind of Bill of Rights for the special needs community, and maybe crafting. I don't know if there's something like that exists on the globe. Maybe we become the first city to do it, but something that puts on paper that this community really needs to be, when we're making our decisions, we look at decisions that involve everybody. And
it
doesn't
sounds very much
exclude.
like the principles of inclusion, Sam.
It sounds exactly like that. And I was going to ask my legal expert and my commissioner whether we could expand on that. So look, one of the things I've learned from this also is that if it ain't on paper, if it's not a rule or a law and it ain't on paper, in tough times, people find easy ways to not have to follow it. So I want to put it on paper where people, even in tough times, go, whoa, we got a responsibility that we have to follow it. Naomi? I'm sorry, Commissioner.
It is on paper, and it was passed, and it was adopted by our city, and we shared it with a number of other cities, and a number of other cities have also adopted it. We also, went through, when I said that, we knew through our Parks and Recreation that we needed to be able to do these things for our children. We needed someone there to ensure that it happened. And that's when, that is the role that Erica fills, at the youth center. We know we have that role also with the Adult Activity Center, that there are programs and there are people there. So I think, I agree with you. This has been a difficult time. I'll tell you, when we first worked and passed those articles of inclusion, I have 4 grandchildren. To my knowledge, all my grandchildren were fine, they're whatever. And one of my grandsons has since been diagnosed on the autism spectrum. So I said, you know, it was, I felt like I paid going forward. And they're the greatest resource that, you know, they have found as a family, I have found as part of this family, is through CARD and through Dr. Alessandre. And it's, you know, I can't believe there's anyone in this community, I would hope, that has a child on that spectrum that doesn't know and hasn't accessed either the services of CARD or FIU. So I think we do have those services. I think we do have those things. You know, the after school program at the youth center is really exceptional for children with disabilities that can participate in that kind of program. For me now, this year, 2 of my grandchildren are at Coral Gables Elementary. One is in kindergarten and one is in 2nd grade. And it's the 2nd grader who is on the autism spectrum. He is in a regular class, you know, with support. And you know, and they both were going to the youth center today. There's still, Naomi, a problem with the bus scheduling, but I think it's maybe early in the year. I think the 2 o'clock bus didn't show up until 3, and the 3 o'clock bus didn't show up until almost 4. So, you know, maybe Francis.
From Coral Gables Prep, Commissioner?
Yes,
Okay.
I still call it Coral Gables Elementary. I'm so sorry.
I do too, Commissioner.
But, you know, that could be, you know, that's a matter of, you know, coordinating in the very beginnings of school, the school year, and the bus schedules being, you know, it takes a while to get them all working as well and smoothly as we can. But it is something that kind of needs to be noted and looked at. So
We can bring that up at our school community relations committee meeting on Friday. We should have district staff present at the meeting, so we'll
If you want, Naomi, if you want to give me information before.
Yeah, I think we could maybe look at that tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
send me information.
Yeah, it's just the bus from the prep that there's a drop off at the youth center for the after school program. And it's for both of the sessions. There was problems with the time for the bus.
for the elementary school and for the middle school. They both get dropped off at
Yes.
the youth center for after school care.
So the buses were, the timing
They
of
were
the bus
late.
was very today, but that, you know, that could be a matter of working out. You know, we're just back into, that's only the 2nd week of school. So, you know, I know those things they don't work out so easily, and it takes some time to sometimes get them all working, but I wanted you to be aware so you could talk about it. But, you know, I think we always have more work to do. We always have more things that we can do, but I'm really, I think that the city has taken, you know, a really proactive role in providing for all of our children. And that was really a very, you know, a very big thought, is that every child needs a place to play. Every child needs someone to play with. And, you know, I think that is really a core value of our city. So I'm happy to see what we're doing. I think Carolina has been at the youth center, has been terrific. She and Fred with providing those spaces, providing those programs, keeping those children safe, keeping them going. And it's, you know, it's our job to see that those programs are funded and our children are cared for.
And it is being done at a stellar level. The comment I always leave folks with is, you know, Carolina mentioned asking for accommodations, and we might be able to fulfill those accommodations. She's very diplomatic. Erica will tell you she'll do whatever it takes to make sure that your child will participate one way or another. I can't think of anyone they've turned away. Even sometimes at their own detriment. But that's how important they take the sentiment of "we made a promise." Naomi, did you have anything you wanted to add in terms of strength? Because the commissioner's right. We're doing a lot of the work. I think it's just making sure we package it right so everybody knows how to access it. And then letting folks know what the articles are, because I think some folks thought it was ceremonial, but we have been living by it.
I just wanted to share with you guys too that even though we don't always, there's certain things we might not be able to do, we do partner with the organization that can. So we are a very, very close partner with Crystal Academy, and we've done a lot of collaboration. They're just right now we're trying to coordinate a trip for their kids to go to the Venetian pool because they haven't had any outing. So, there's certain things we might not be able to facilitate, but we are great partners with the institutions that are able to facilitate these things. So that's something that we shouldn't forget, and we do have a wonderful school in our own city that provides amazing resources.
Hey, folks, I got to jump off. I got a 6:30 that I can't miss, but it's great to see you guys. I'll put my cell phone number in the chat. And if anybody wants to call me about anything, please feel free to do so. I'm on the radio in the morning, but you can text me, okay?
Thank you, Raquel, and I'll send you the notes.
You should remind them all that Raquel was our former school board member.
I did, and
Yes.
aptly serve us then too. Thank you, Raquel. I'll send you the notes
Thank
and
you,
we'll
guys.
keep you on the list.
Have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
And we're going to wrap up in just about 5 minutes, folks. I just wanted to finish up this part of the conversation. I'm sorry, Naomi, I kept jumping in on you.
Oh, no, that was me, Sam. I just wanted to say one thing. I heard all the resources. The Adventure Day for All was essentially to do that, to put all the resources that we have to let everybody know what's available. Since it was canceled, we have been talking about creating some sort of a page or something on our website that could easily just list all the resources so people can access those. So we are working on something like that already, but it's just accessible via the internet.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I don't have anything really to add. I did attempt to put the link for the Principles of Inclusion resolution in the chat. I don't think it worked. I'll try again, but I emailed it to you, Sam, either way. So you
Naomi, it was there, but you can't, I tried to copy and paste and it's not working.
I'll email it to everybody.
I'm going to try again.
I'll email it to everybody. Just to end this part of the conversation, one of the things that this group had talked about on an advocacy level was looking at maybe applying for a board seat on the Children's Trust. Since the Children's Trust is the major funder of special needs initiatives for our county. And obviously asking the city, whether it's through DAB or SCRC, but somehow getting some representation on the Children's Trust board so that we'd have access to those funding streams. Naomi, is that something that's even possible?
I mean, anything's possible, but I guess we would have to talk about how that would work. I mean, because really you would run in your individual capacity, right? Like you would be personally responsible for serving as a member of the Children's Trust. So I'm not sure, unless someone's willing to take up that gauntlet, where the board would necessarily come into play,
Okay.
like either board, school community relations, or disability affairs. Because there's a certain amount of time commitment required, and so whoever decides to do that needs to be fully engaged and want to do it, right? So I don't know that it would make sense for the board to nominate someone unless that person was very much willing to take it on.
Definitely.
I think
If we want to talk about other possibilities, we can.
Yeah, but I think it's being aware of their grant funding and what it is and when it is, and just being I think staff can take a look at that so that we know when their funding cycle.
Well, and look at this great opportunity we had with the park here with this grant. There may be some programming opportunities and others. So I love that idea of having staff look at that. And I know we're not one of the cities that has a grant writer. So it really would be going out of the way. And maybe that's where as committees we could help, is where we see things we can pass it on to staff as options that are out there. All right, I want to close with just some news and notes. What are you guys doing? Any events? Well, events. Things coming up we should know about that you're doing. Services that are available, adapted, that we should know about. Real quick, let's start with you, Dr. DeRocher and Card.
So, I mean, we're always kind of doing something new. We do have a lot of new resources on our website. We have a whole section of our website that's a link tree that has resources in different categories, you know, including visual supports, COVID-related types of things for the disability community. We, in response to COVID-19, have come up with kind of expanded types of programming for our community. So we're doing a lot more on kind of mental health related groups and workshops on a regular basis than we had been offering. So really check those out. We're being very, very flexible as well in making those accessible, even if the family's not registered with CARD at the moment or not eligible to register with CARD. There are many of those types of workshops and groups that they can attend regardless. A lot of stuff for teens. We have some kind of online programming for kids that's activity based because kids were home. Now the kids are back in school. We may scale back a bit on that, but most of it has been new programming.
Okay.
Again, all online. So that's important.
The new normal. The new normal. I'm gonna tee this off, and Francis can chime in. Ava Goldman could not join us today, and she apologized. You know, they just opened up schoolhouses last week, and so her department has been very, very busy on the ground, taking care of issues. She said to please visit their website, the district's website, ESE website. There's plenty of information there about programming, partnerships, COVID adaptations, and what the future will look like, and also if you need to contact them for services. Is there anything I missed there, Francis?
No, like she said, of course, there's a lot of information on the website, but as far as we are always open to answer any questions, you know, you can always reach us. And if we don't know the answer, you know that we'll direct it. Board Member Rojas is a very person that's always on foot, you know, so we're visiting schools with protection and excuse me, and everything. So there's a lot of things that she finds out sometimes because she's witnessing it. So, and if she doesn't, you know, of course, like I said before, let us know if there's any issues, any specific question that you may not find on the website, and we'll get you the answer.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Vanessa, what's on tap for DAB?
Sorry. Well, we're just now going to start into our second meeting again, so there's not a lot, but we are hopeful that working with the city, offering an ex officio seat to the Chamber of Commerce, that we'll be able to start educating the different businesses on the different abilities that exist within the spectrum and other disabilities as well, just to kind of get companies interested in what the different talents are. So that's my major next step.
Well, I will tell you, we had
About that, Sam.
go right ahead.
You know, I serve as the liaison also to the chamber. So I'm working, Mark Trowbridge, you know, called in and we had that whole discussion. They're already planning to do a luncheon based on, you know, the information that, you know, a lot that they're, and he has already been in touch with Dr. Alessandra to talk about, particularly people on the autism spectrum. And, you know, that the program that came out on 60 Minutes a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
I saw
Yep.
for that. He is, you know, we have talked for a long time that housing and employment are the biggest challenge for people with disabilities. Yep. And there's a group that's trying to work on the housing component of it. And the chamber now is very committed to help us work on the employment portion of it. And so they're going to do they will do a whole, like a luncheon with a speaker and whatever, and they're in the process of planning it. So that's a great thing for you to, you know, you'll be able to step right in with him.
That is
He's
that is fantastic.
That's
So,
fantastic. And
and
Vanessa,
he's just
three quick little partners, and I'll send you this on email, that would be great in that effort. Big Brothers Big Sisters does a wonderful school to work program, and they've incorporated a lot of special needs families as part of that program. Best Buddies International, they're not here today, but they have been part of this group. They're wonderful. And ARC of Broward. I don't know about ARC here, but ARC of Broward has done and the Dan Marino, the folks at the Dan Marino campus. And all of those folks have attended our meetings and have been part of this group and want to be listed as resources available for folks. So good. The SCRC would be happy to help you out too, because we want to do something around internships with kids, also, and increasing those numbers. So go for it. Excited. Real quick, I want to thank some folks from from DAB who helped with our planning of the Summer Family Literacy Festival. It's a book fair event that we're looking to do in summer of 2021. That would be an all-inclusive event. I want to thank Mari Palicio Pike, Ashley Cunhill, and Becky Elizondo, who specifically looked at the event and gave us a lot of ideas for how we could have adaptive programming, things we never thought about. That really is going to make it, I think, an event for all families. So thanks. There's definitely some projects that we're doing at the SCRC that I think could be more inclusive, like our Coral Gables history tours that we're doing. And so I'd love to talk to the DAB committee to committee to look at, here's what we're doing, our programming, and how can we make it inclusive to all children. And I think the Coral Gable history tours is a perfect place to start, because it's been a fantastic, fantastic program. And another one I want to leave on your plate is we started giving out teacher awards last year, and the chamber loves it and is asking us to continue to give out teacher awards every year. I don't know that, and the district, and maybe Francis can answer this, I know there's a paraprofessional award, but I would like to look at developing an award for paraprofessionals, our teachers who work with special needs, to be part of the teacher awards. And so let's talk at DAB and see what we can work out, and maybe it's a new program that we can work on together as committees.
You're saying to do an award from the chamber and SCRC?
The way we did it last year, Francis, is we worked.
No, I remember. We went to the event. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to include paraprofessionals in that event. And I don't know that does the district do a paraprofessional of the year for each school?
Not as big as teacher.
Okay.
So yeah,
But
we can definitely have a conversation on that.
Yeah, I'd love to honor our paraprofessionals, because we do. All of our schools, by the way, have special needs programming for our kids, and adaptations, and paraprofessionals working there. So I'd like to look at ways of honoring them also, because the look on those teachers' faces last year, it was priceless. And in this time, if we can do that for paraprofessionals, that would be great.
Okay.
Last thing I want to leave you guys with, and I end this meeting this way all the time. Who wasn't here that should be here? Is there a group that we need to be talking to that provides high quality services in this area who's not been at our meetings? Please let me know who that is. You can send it to me on email, you can text me, and give me their contact information, or you can invite them. But we want to make sure that folks know this table is open to anyone who's got something to feed to the audience. And if they're good, we want to know about it. I know I have a couple already on my list, like the Lighthouse for the Blind, which Mary Palacio Pike is helping me with, Whispering Mains, which is a wonderful organization that does equestrian activities for special needs audiences, ARC of Broward, and FIU Embrace. Dr. DeRocher, do you know the FIU Embrace folks?
Yeah, we know them for sure. Yeah.
I went to one meeting. They're very good at marketing, so I like their stuff. I went to one, but I don't know about them as a group. But I like that they're tied with FIU, and having FIU and UM and NSU, I think, is a great coup for us all.
No, definitely, definitely they should be invited for sure. Hope you're muted. Somehow you muted yourself.
Somehow, see, I do it. I even do it accidentally. Thank you all. Every time I meet with you all, I learn something new, and you pick up my spirits, especially at this time when I haven't seen a lot of people and been sheltered for a while. This meeting, by the way, I meant to let you know I've recorded, and we'll have the notes, and I'll send the notes out to everyone as part of the group. I'd like to get back together in January and kind of debrief and see where we are. Hopefully, we'll be able to meet in person. But thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you for coming here tonight and offering your time and talent. And I look forward to getting back together in person soon. Am I forgetting anything, Naomi? The group? If not,
Oh, I have one question for.
go for it, Commissioner.
Carolina, where are we with a handicap accessible door on the Adult Activity Center?
Yes, hi, Commissioner. So we received several quotes. We're working with our Public Works Department. The last quote, unfortunately, because it's on the exterior of the building, the initial quote was very low because it's just getting the button. Unfortunately, that didn't consider the fact that we have to run electrical on the exterior wall of the building. So it's a bit bigger of a project, which we're gonna look for some funding to go ahead and fund that. But it's about, I think, $38,000 to get one set of doors open.
And that's really the electric?
Yes, because it's an exterior storefront building.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, so it's a little bit more than we had anticipated. So we're looking at how we're going to fund that and coordinate that with facilities and maybe with CIP.
Okay, I'll talk to them about that then. They need to do that. So,
Yes.
please. Okay, thank you.
I think
No,
you
you're
got
welcome.
some back in there. I think that's going to happen there, huh? Oh, there was something I just came into my head and I just forgot it. Thank you all.
Sam, I have to jump off.
No problem.
Okay.
I think I am done. If there is nothing else, I appreciate your time, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you in person soon. Take care. Mask up.
Take
Shield
care.
up.
Thank you,
Bye.
Thank you,
everyone.
Sam. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.